to explain today a little bit about how jury selection happens in Canada, how that procedure happens. And let's assume that you have elected trial by judge and jury. So what's going to happen on your first day of trial, there might be other jury selections going on that day as well. So maybe as many as 200 people are going to be summoned to court that day to be potential jurors. And I'm going to give you an example of a recent case we did to show you how this procedure happens. And incidentally, on September 19th, I believe it was 2019, very recently, the Parliament changed the jury selection process. There's no longer what are called peremptory challenges, and I handle that topic in a different video, which I encourage you to watch. So here's how it happens going forward, and in a recent jury trial we did. So those 200 people, for example, they'll be in a totally separate room by video in the same courthouse, okay? And the accused and judge and crown will be in the main courthouse. In this particular case, and it may be slightly different procedure in different cities, but these are the basics. The judge addressed that panel of 200 people and kind of explained to them what was going on and said, look, a few of you are going to be brought in at a time until we select 12 jurors. If you're brought in, you can explain to me in open court whether you have any financial hardship, employment issues, or health issues, these type of hardship issues, which would prevent you from sitting on a jury. If it's embarrassing to you to say that in open court, you can write me a note. And just as an example, let's say a person was a victim of crime and they didn't think they'd be partial, they could write a note to that effect. So in this particular case, they then started bringing in 5 people at a time, and one of them would come forward at a time, and the judge would ask them, look, is there any reason you can't sit on the jury? And, some of the people would give reasons, and there'd be a discussion with the Crown and defense counsel of the Crown as to whether they should sit on the jury or whether there's true, problems for them sitting on because of health reasons, hearing, whatnot. And if they were acceptable, they had no reasons, they became juror number 1 effectively. And this process just continued until you selected 12 jurors. And it's a very quick process. It's a matter of the judge asking a few questions about hardship. If there's no hardship and the person can sit on the jury, the defense counsel is not allowed to challenge them. Neither is the Crown. There are some exceptions, of course. For example, let's say a particular jury member was an accused brother that the Crown knew, and there was some knew the Crown, well, the Crown would be able to challenge them. There's also challenges which have to be brought in advance by application, like for pretrial publicity. Let's say there's been extensive publicity in your case which is biasing jury members, then you might be able to question some of the jurors. Or let's say there's an Indigenous accused or a Black accused, you're allowed to ask each jury member potential member, whether they're biased against a Black person or Indigenous, and the judge would try that issue and say, no, that person's biased or they're acceptable. But the bottom line, these challenges we used to have where the accused could simply say challenge for no reason is gone. That's gone, and I cover that in another video. So that's how it's a very simplified procedure now. It happens very quick. It's not like the U.S. where they have extensive what's called voir dire and all sorts of questioning. We don't have that in Canada unless it's pretrial publicity or a Black accused or Indigenous accused. And again, very simple questions. It's very short. It takes a short amount of time. So that's it in a nutshell. And if you're called for jury duty, it can be an interesting experience. Most of you probably don't want to sit at a jury, but I encourage you. It's an important Canadian right for accused, and it's sometimes interesting for people to sit on juries as well.